Friends, good Saturday morning. Welcome back. Let's talk about the latest news because there's a lot of amazing news out there. So, back when, and here's something interesting for you guys historically, finding the data is very difficult right now because of how the IMF's website is structured. Right now, it's very difficult to find older historical currency rate changes on the IMF's website. Okay, but they years ago they used to be a lot easier to find. Anyway, where I was trying to go with this is back close to around the time when the new currency, when they got rid of Saddam's old Swiss notes and released the brand new currency notes that we as investors have and hold today, the currency was devalued in that time in the month of September. So just so you know, see the original currency devaluation occurred back in the month of September of, it was around 2004 or 2005, somewhere in that time frame. Again, I was trying to find that old data just to show you guys. But again, that devaluation from the war era and the sanctions occurred in the month of September during the year in which the devaluation occurred. So September is a critical piece right now based on everything out there. So right now we know that as of yesterday morning, they told us that the U.S. personnel will be out of the levels or out of the areas of the federal government, okay, from the green zone Baghdad area. They said on and kind of by September 15th. Okay, not by the end of September, but by mid-September, U.S. personnel will be out of Iraq, and that's very important because when they go to revalue, we've got to give them their sovereignty. We've got to give them, basically, we're passing the security baton over to the federal government. Okay, we're also vacating the Ain al-Assad military base within the Green Zone Baghdad. Okay, so we'd be lifting the sanctions, turning the whole security and military control levels over to Iraq. But they also told us that when the U.S. personnel vacate, that it's going to transition relations between Iraq and the United States. They said into bilateral relations. That means that's the strategic framework agreement, which is money, trade, and so forth, and business as usual. That means Iraq's back on the world stage. Okay, so what's happening in the month of September is very critical. Now, notice how you take what I just shared, talking about the troops, U.S. personnel exiting Iraq by mid-September. Notice how right around that, these first two articles here, it says, after decades of challenges, Iraq completes technical documents to join the World Trade Organization. All right, and that's why I called it Critical September. Iraq has completed technical files required to join the World Trade Organization. Okay, there was another article that I posted this morning, and it said regarding the 2025 budget. So they're telling you there's a 2025 budget coming, but it said regarding the 2025 budget, oil revenues, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that, non-oil revenues, because again, to join the world trade, Iraq has to have more than one revenue stream, meaning they need non-oil revenue streams or levels of income coming into the country of Iraq. Again, having more than just one revenue stream is a world trade requirement. So they gave us kind of where their non-oil revenues, meaning their additional revenue streams, is kind of projected to be. So very good stuff here. Okay, lots of stuff showing they're very close to joining the world trade. U.S. troops and personnel being out of Iraq by mid-September. They said once the U.S. personnel and troops are out, they're transitioning to bilateral relations. That means Iraq's on the world stage. They've revalued their currency, and it's now the U.S. transition from having sanctions and helping Iraq restructure and getting their security and stability dialed in to resuming trade, and Iraq's back on the world stage with an internationally recognized convertible currency. Okay, so critical puzzle pieces here. So again, these first two articles are talking about, and one of the articles is from today and one's from yesterday, but they're basically saying that Iraq is pretty much completed what they need to being very close. They're almost at the point of like a level of final review with the board of directors of the World Trade. And they're now very close to joining because they've completed everything they needed to to basically be reconsidered eligible to rejoin in the world trade. Okay, and see this right here. It says, here's an interesting article. It says MP means Member of Parliament, reveals positive signals in the sending of 2025 budget tables. Now, again, they spent 7 months last year from mid-April to roughly mid-October, that 7-month stretch, amending the 2025 budget. That's the first time in history that I've ever been in this since 2009, along with most of you, that we've ever seen them amend the budget. Why would they do that? Well, again, they devalued the currency in close proximity to the war era. Okay, back around 2004, 2005 was when they devalued the currency, and that was in the month of September. And now here we are approaching September of 2025, because again, the countries only have two budgets. It's either mid-year, like semi-annual, or annual. Annual means a one-year budget. Semi-annual means a half-year budget. So the first half of Iraq's budget period would go from April through the end of September. The second half would go from October through the end of March of the following year. Now, let's look at this article, because this article is very suggestive of a semi-annual budget. Let's look at this. I called it critical September, second half of the year budget period. Those are my comments, but here's an important paragraph at the very end of the article. It says, meanwhile, the government continues to rely on operating expenses to cover salaries and basic expenses, a pattern that occurred in previous years when budgets were approved in the second half or even at the end of the year. So they're suggesting in this that due to some prior historical steps, that the 2025 budget, or the amended portion of it, might be coming kind of in the second half of the year in this article. That's what I've been telling you, is that it's a semi-annual half-year budget. But the rate has to change at the point of a budget period, September, October. Now, that's when it has to change. And again, this is the first time in history we've ever witnessed them draft amending a budget. Now, why did they draft amend it? What is that significant of? Well, those are changes within it. What did they do? Well, they remember, budgets are drafted or calculated off the value of the currency. So what they did was they spent 7 months redrafting the budget's calculations or figures against the new currency value. Why can't they send it, or why haven't they sent it to Parliament for approval? Well, the budget's a law. All aspects of the law have to exist in order to approve it. Well, okay, so what doesn't exist in it? The new currency value. So because the new currency value does not exist yet, because they haven't revalued, that's the reason they can't send the budget schedules to Parliament for approval. Now you understand. Okay, so again, this article is very suggestive. You can pause the screen and read the article right here. And this article is from today. We can go through some of it a little bit. It says right here, the 25 budget schedules were expected to be sent earlier this year. But again, yes, the currency has not revalued or increased in value. And that aspect of the law doesn't exist, preventing Parliament from being able or eligible to approve it. But the delay has a direct impact on funding of projects across ministries, agencies, local governments. Last week saw positive signals indicating the government's potential to submit budget schedules before the end of the current legislative session to the House of Representatives, and anticipating that they would be submitted in the coming weeks. Right there. There it is right there. And submitted to Parliament for approval in the coming weeks. In my opinion, that'll probably be during the second half of September. Okay? But it will be after the rate changes. And remember, U.S. personnel won't be out of there till by September 15th. So, meaning the buildings have to be vacated. It's called sovereignty. And we have to pass that security baton and that control baton back to the government of Iraq once we've got the sanctions lifted and we're out of there. So again, but we're not out of there till roughly September 15th. So the rate would change sometime after that, not before. The government recognizes the importance of the 25 budget schedules given the pathways. They include that give the green light for project financing, operations and ministries, the local governments and governance. He emphasized that the schedules could be finalized within a short period if they reach the House of Representatives, especially given the census of their importance in financing projects and resolving numerous financial issues. Okay, but as you see right here, it says anticipating that they would be submitted in the coming weeks. And again, in my opinion, that's after the rate has changed in the second half of September. Okay, that's just an opinion though. Nobody knows the day the rate's going to change. Meanwhile, the government continues to rely on operating expenses to cover salaries, basic expenses, a pattern that occurred in previous years when budgets were approved in the second half or even at the end of the year. So again, this article is telling you what I kind of am, that it's, or what I've been trying to tell you, is that we're not going to see the rate change till the second half of the year budget period. Okay, that's the first half would end in September. The second half would start in October, which is their 7th month. Okay, right here, Soudani directs the completion of the final draft of Iraq's vision of 2050. Iraq's Prime Minister Soudani has directed the Supreme National Committee for Strategies to finalize the country's vision of the 2050 plan. The comprehensive long-term national vision aims to transform Iraq's state system across various developmental, economic, and administrative levels, incorporating digital technology and artificial intelligence. So we know they're trying to transition to majority digital across the board, even with currency and so forth. They'll probably be similar to us with their currency 80-20. 20 means physical cash, 80% electronic digital debit, and internet online purchases using apps like Cash App or Zelle or whatever. But again, they have told us in the past they would be structured roughly 80-20. Okay, so anyway, very good article here, very good information. The news going into September is very critical, but don't forget, it was September early on, roughly 2004, 2005, when the currency originally devalued. I just apologize, I'm not able to bring you that data. It's not as easy to find it, and information suggests that the IMF may not even have that anymore. Okay, so it's just very hard to find, but back in the days it used to be very easy to find. Anyway, friends, hope you have an amazing weekend. Enjoy it, and thank you for joining. Take care.